So courage isn't about having all the answers, but it's about showing our colleagues that we're willing to step in. And through that uncertainty, we can help prepare tomorrow's nurses for the realities that they're going to face in healthcare.
True leadership shines in moments of uncertainty. When the path isn't clear, courageous leaders step forward with integrity, vision, and a commitment to those they serve. Let's explore what that looks like in nursing education today. Welcome to the Lippincott Spark, Illuminating Nursing Education podcast. I'm Dr. Kelly Drees. Join us as we ignite your passion for nursing education and leadership. We'll explore the latest trends, hear from expert nurses, and provide tools to keep you inspired. Let's dive into today's episode and continue your professional development journey together. In a time of rapid change in nursing education, courageous leadership lights the way forward. Did you know transformation doesn't require certainty? It requires courage. In this episode, we explore how bold leadership, innovation, and evidence-based practice empowers educators and academic administrators to lead meaningful change. Joining us today is Dr. Kathleen Williamson, a dynamic force in nursing education. As Associate Dean and Professor at Indiana University and former college president and dean, Kathy has revolutionized nursing education through curriculum innovation, faculty development, and digital learning. Her work bridges academia and practice, shaping the next generation of nurse leaders for today's evolving healthcare landscape. Welcome, Kathy.
Thank you, Kelly. It's a privilege to be here and an honor to impart wisdom on others for the leadership opportunities that they may seek.
One of my favorite topics to talk about courageous leadership. So let's dive into the heart of that. So when you think about courageous leadership, what does that look like in action?
Well, when I think of courageous leadership in nursing education, I think about the moments when we're called to make decisions that we may not feel comfortable with, but they're necessary for our growth. So even as a faculty, they might be trying a new teaching strategy or a flipped classroom for the first time, maybe using AI tools. So even if it's risky at first, but as academic leaders, we can help with that piece. We can emphasize our competencies, we can increase the use of technology, but we can also help them rethink long-held traditions. So courage isn't about having all the answers, but it's about showing our colleagues that we're willing to step in. And through that uncertainty, we can help prepare tomorrow's nurses for the realities that they're going to face in healthcare. And so this may stretch us, but if it helps our graduates thrive in those complex environments, then it may be worth trying. So we need to help others find that courage because it's essential. Sometimes we have to start small. But it's a journey. It's a shared journey. And so innovation is also something that comes into play. But innovation doesn't have to be a massive change. It could be a single idea that someone has. It could be just a reassign or redesigned assignment that they might want to put in place. But people always can feel isolated when they're less likely to try new things. So as a leader, we need to help find allies. And that sharing ideas, innovation can feel less like an uphill battle and more like a shared journey. And so by showing how we can help stretch each other and stretch everyone in some way toward a goal, we can also inspire others to thrive in these environments.
I love that. Thank you. So how do you see resilience playing a role in this, in sustaining that courage, especially when faculty and academic administrators are facing resistance or uncertainty?
Oh, it's a great question. I wish I had a magic ball for it all, or, the magic wand, they say, but I believe that resilience is also allows courage to last. And because the truth is, whether you're a dean trying to advance a bold initiative or a faculty member trying to do something new in the classroom, resistance is part of the process. And so resilience is also our ability to keep moving forward. So even when we hit a roadblock, change may feel slow. But for me, resistance is also finding the strength in the community. And so when we lean on our colleagues, we celebrate small wins. We remind ourselves why. why we're doing this in the first place. If we want to transform nursing education and ultimately patient care, it's about modeling it for our students, for our faculty, for our colleagues, that sometimes we have setbacks. But when we do, that's part of growth. And that's also part of leadership to help individuals grow in this space. So when we see that and others see that in us as if we're role models too, we show how we can bounce back from a setback, we adapt, and we can continue to lead with our purpose. And then we learn to carry that resilience into our own practice.
It can be very frustrating. You're excited about an initiative and you are facing some resistance. But I also find that leaders don't have the luxury of losing their composure, right? And especially in times of change, right? Because it's so easy to. You're just frustrated and want to move things forward. But to me, courageous leadership means showing up with confidence, modeling that integrity and, inspiring, like you said, that innovation, even when the path is unclear. And several years ago, I was able to listen to a civic leader and author. His name was Ibu Patel. And I remember him saying, these are the times that leaders yearn for. These are the times that leaders yearn for, not when the waters are calm, but when actual disruption, calls for that vision, calls for that resilience and that inclusive action.
Yeah, part of this too is being courageous, is to be courageous to help reshape maybe what's happening. And so being courageous also, sometimes you have to stay calm within that in that space, and you have to demonstrate that. It doesn't mean that we got to take care of ourselves too. We have to have wellness on our part, because we do have to have outlets to be able to share our frustration, but we could do that, and we have to find that right spot to do it. But I always say too, when we're in front of people, we have to show that we can remain calm. I remember in COVID, when we were having to close down, it was really important for the team to demonstrate how we can move forward in this space, and that we may not have all the answers. There's a lot of ambiguity, but we have to work together to fill those gaps, and we'll do this, and we'll be on this journey together. And I think that support was the courageous part, but also you have to demonstrate that way forward. And I think Coos and Posner always talks about modeling the way. I think it's an opportunity for us to model the way.
Kind of building on that, let's talk about innovation and overcoming those barriers. So what advice would you give to faculty who want to innovate but feel uncertain or limited by their current structures?
It's a great question. I would say first start small. It's great to take on the big picture, especially if you're a visionary person or a person who thinks big in that space. Bring your colleagues around, because innovation or change can be scary and exciting all at the same time. And sometimes it excites a lot of people, but yet it's like, oh no, it's because we've always done it this way. It's the best way ever. And I say, well, sometimes it begins with just a new idea. And innovation is really about the enhancement or creativity of change, or something you've said, I really think I should try this. Well, maybe try it out small. Talk to a colleague first. And it may start with a colleague, or it might start with a friend. It might also start with even a student who says, you know what, I learn best when I do this. And then it sparks an idea. So I remember a time when I felt constrained too, and it was easy to think, well, I can't change a system, so why try? But I learned that innovation is often not about it's about finding the space within the structure to transform that experience, or change that policy, or think of something in a new way. And so maybe you can't rebuild it, but you can maybe pilot it with a new activity, use technology in a fresh way. Think and work with your colleagues on trying something new that might be cross-disciplinary that you might never have thought of before. And I guess what I'm saying here is maybe don't try it alone is some good advice. Faculty often feel isolated when they're trying something new, but when you share ideas with others, you find the allies, or even involve students as co-creators, suddenly innovation doesn't feel like an uphill battle, and it feels more like a shared journey. So I have a quote here. To my thought is that innovation is simply the courage to do things differently today, so we can prepare nurses for the challenges of tomorrow. So it's like reshaping the way you think. It's reshaping maybe one piece of what you're doing in the classroom, and don't think of it as the big thing. And that innovation really is the courage to do something just differently tomorrow.
Yeah, just that ripple effect, right? Start small.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's like
Absolutely.
that drop in the water
Yep.
and you see the ripples kind of
Yep.
going
Yep.
through. Or I always think of it as, ocean waves. Sometimes they're really forceful
Yes.
and you really don't think you can walk out there, but then there's days where it's really calm. So maybe it's one of those days that you just try the first step, just wade in the water and just kind of see what the temperature is and then just move things through. And then before you know it, you realize that, wow, I really made a difference. And the data can show you that. Observations in the classroom, working with your peers and asking for student feedback are always a great place to find out, how is that path moving in that direction? Is it a positive direction or do you need to pull back a little bit? It's a little ebb and flow.
I think we have a water theme going here. I love it. We've got the water and the waves and the ripples. So I think about a growth mindset. How can adopting a growth mindset help educators kind of reframe these limitations as opportunities as they try to, problem solve?
Yeah, and the first person I think of is Carol Dweck's work in growth mindset. And a quote I have from her is, in a growth mindset, challenges are exciting rather than threatening. So rather than thinking, oh, I'm going to reveal my weaknesses, you may want to say, wow, I now have a chance to grow. And I think that really is an opportunity as a leader too, as maybe you knew in the leadership role, or maybe mid-career or at any point, a growth mindset is really key because you want to shift the question from what I can't do to what is possible within what do I have. And then I want to ask questions. And so every challenge may not be what I can't do, but it's an opportunity for us to stretch, learn, and lead. And that mindset is a belief in our abilities. Again, it goes back to confidence and having the courage. It's really your abilities, your skills, and even your confidence that can help us develop through that opportunity. But it takes effort, but we also want to get feedback from others and we want to be persistent. In nursing education, it means that we and our students are not just defined about where we start, but how we learn along the way and how we adapt. And we talk about lifelong learners all the time. So in order to do that, we have to adapt and we have to grow and we have to learn. And when we learn, we challenge ourselves. And so I see growth mindset really as an attitude, a leadership attitude. And it's a mindset that helps us reframe those limitations and work toward those creative possibilities that we can have in ourselves, but also what we can find in others and help others grow. It kind of comes with resistance to change. And how do you overcome that? And I think it's also reframing opportunities because sometimes somebody could see it in one way, but sometimes you just need a conversation with somebody to just help you see, well, there might be a different side to it that I never thought of. Maybe it's the network that you bring to the table. It's the contacts that you have. It's the situations that you've been in, and you could share those experiences with others to help them grow in this space. And then that mindset helps limit the opportunity to say, I can't do it, but let me try. And I'm here to help you try.
I think visionary leaders don't respond to change. They actually try to anticipate it. They anticipate that change, by aligning program goals, right, to future trends in healthcare and education. So how do we do that? Like you said, what's happening in your community, staying updated on the latest research and literature, talking to those communities of interest, your advisory committee or clinical partners, other key stakeholders, such as faculty or staff or students, to ensure that your institution, stays relevant, responsive, and rooted in those community needs. I think that's so
Oh, yeah.
important.
And I say, it's really taking a look at who your stakeholders are. You have your community of interest, but there may be certain ways that you want to continue to keep in communication with various stakeholders. Like if you're working toward an academic practice partnership, you can have it as a very loose relationship, but it also could be that you set time on a calendar every quarter to connect with your partners, to have a conversation. How are things going in your environment? How are our students transitioning into the workplace and so forth? And so I think it's really important. It's also important to, like when you walk down the hall, talk to students as they're in the hallway or in the elevator and kind of hear what they're having to say. I think it's really important too to be visible to folks, and also faculty meetings. Maybe there's an opportunity to carve out time to have these types of conversations. What are you doing? So, and in our case, we carve out what we call professional development time, about 20 minutes for conversations. And it's about how can we continue to grow our pedagogy, our teaching strategies, and what can we do to support each other? And that allows individuals to kind of come together and collaborate and then go, hey, I'd like to come to your classroom and see what you're doing. Or, hey, that was a great idea. And, they write a little note to each other and leave it in their mailbox. I think it's really important to acknowledge that as well.
Yeah, I love that. When I was a dean a few years back, I would have what I called open mic. It was open mic for students to come in and ask questions and have some dialogue, but also faculty as well, a separate open mic session, and it gave kind of that platform for these key stakeholders to really provide input to leaders so that it would help us navigate some of these upcoming changes or things that these individuals were dealing with at that time. So
yeah, we call it a round of applause.
Yeah, there you go. There you go.
And we go around the room and, what can we say? And it seems like somebody doesn't want to speak up, but it opens the door for trust in that environment for people to share. And it might be like they think it's this little thing, but that little thing, again, back to the ripple effect, has such impact over time. And so it's a great opportunity. And I think it's so important that we share with each other those great ideas.
Now, let's explore a little bit how we mentioned disruption that could be a catalyst for growth. You cited the 2020 pandemic as we tried to navigate through that.
Yeah.
How can emerging technologies, including artificial intelligence, transform nursing education and practice today? What are some future possibilities that excite you the most?
Oh, there's a lot that excite me in this space.
I knew I'd get you.
There's a lot of new and emerging technologies, like you just mentioned, generative AI. They're going to be opening doors for us in nursing education in ways maybe we never even imagined yesterday or even tomorrow. But right now, we're already seeing generative AI. We look at simulation, we have virtual reality, we have adaptive learning platforms, but they can help with making education more engaging and more personalized. And we know today, education, that one size fits all lectures, AI platforms can help identify areas where maybe students struggle and provide tailored practice for a student in an environment where maybe a personal tutor now could be there 24/7. And that's pretty amazing for a student who's going through nursing school. As we know, there's so much mounds of materials that they have to get through. And for faculty, AI might help boost productivity, allowing them to focus on more meaningful instructional activities, support course development, maybe planning, providing targeted and support to students. And I think that's the one thing we always need to remember, that these are tools. And if, as a faculty or as a leader, we want to look at these tools as an opportunity to support our faculty and support our students, because our mission is to have our students graduate our programs and enter the workplace. In a complex healthcare environment, technology is changing. I'll call it speed of light. I think it's like forgot the stat, but it was like every 34, 70 some odd days changes. And so we have to have our students feel comfortable in an environment to be able to adapt. So I think, teaching students to use these tools is going to shape how we have our students enter into the workplace. But most importantly is that we need to apply any kind of technology ethically and effectively in our classrooms and within our programs. And so we want to also make sure it elevates the human side of nursing and replace it. And that we need to ensure that when we're teaching this human side of nursing, that we continue to embody the empathy and the hands-on care that needs to be there, but it's not focusing specifically on the tools. The tools are just a tool, and we need to remember that.
Innovation often requires a shift in mindset. So let's talk a little bit about embracing change. What strategies do you recommend for integrating evidence-based practice to drive innovation and improve learning outcomes in nursing education?
Yeah, well, we talk about innovation, and innovation is like what we do. Can we create something? Can we provide something? But to innovate is how we do it. And so I think of evidence-based practice in education pretty much the same way we think of it in clinical practice. It's really, we guide our practice based on the best available evidence that's out there, but we balance it with our expertise and the inclusion of patient preferences. And so when we think about that, it's an opportunity for us to really support the work that's being done at the point of care. And that part of that is also our opportunity when we talk about building partnerships It's those partnerships that we make in that clinical practice that we support that transition of how we teach you how to use it in an academic setting, but the delivery of that in practice. And it needs to be all together. It's not an academic practice. It's about the way we deliver this in the way we practice as an individual, is a practicing practitioner, I guess I should say. So at the end of the day, evidence-based practice can drive innovation. And it also is not just to validate what we're already doing, but it pushes us towards what we can be doing. And so it's important that we help particularly students understand that how to question and how to evaluate and then apply that evidence so that we can use evidence-based practice as a way of thinking and not just doing. It's both.
Yeah. Change is constant. And I've quoted this John Kabat-Zinn before, you can't stop these waves, but you can learn how to surf, right? And,
Yep.
Innovation too, it's evolving every single day. And, great leaders, I think, equip themselves with the tools to adapt swiftly to that. And they build their networks. And I like to say their board of directors. Who's on your personal board of directors? Identify those gaps and investing in that growth. I might not be the smartest person in the room, but I know somebody who has that expertise. And, having that emotional intelligence is definitely a key that nursing leaders need to have, because that self-awareness, that empathy, that strong communication turns those challenges into opportunities. And one of my mottos is every problem has a solution. And when something irritates you, something really gets under your skin and frustrates you, and it's super difficult, maybe it's navigating crucial conversations or building a case to garner resources, or I think leaders don't resist it. Embrace that challenge and kind of think about it as it's a signal for your growth, your need for growth. It's your signpost. It's your maybe need for professional development or mentoring. And I remember a dean that I had worked with. I was an associate dean at the time. I was really frustrated I was trying to navigate this cantankerous student situation. And the dean said to me, you know what? She just said, you need to get thicker skin, gather all the facts, use data to inform your decisions, and just lead. You got this. Just lead. And at that time, I thought, you know what? I'm going to, take her advice, and my confidence grew. I ended up getting a mentor. I engaged in professional development. And by, I think, embracing that growth mindset, it really was a game changer.
I think that there are opportunities, like you said, though, there are resources that are out there and available too. And you can look at professional organizations, you can look at your own community. And I really have been able to take advantage of opportunities to be mentored by others, as well as then reciprocating that and being a mentor for others. And I think it kind of goes both ways. And I think it's really important that we seek out that opportunity because, again, like what I said earlier, you want to kind of have a person who you can talk to when you're in a situation like you were just explaining and have that conversation, and to have somebody on speed dial as a mentor or a friend that you can call and say, and just think through it and have a conversation so that then you're comfortable and you gain your confidence to have that crucial conversation with another or with a group. It depends.
Yeah, it could be a large group.
Yes, it could be.
Too. So speaking of personal and professional growth, how can nurse educators and academic leaders really tap into their strengths and face challenges with courage to lead with confidence? Do you have any examples where you've seen this kind of leadership in action?
Yeah, and to me, it starts with self-awareness. It often focuses much on what we don't have. We focus on what resources we don't have, our time or support. And sometimes we overlook those strengths that we already bring to the table, so to speak. And so in order to build good relationships and good partnerships, we want to look at one's strengths and how we can, I would almost say sometimes pair them together. But confidence doesn't mean having all the answers, like you said, too. It's also about just saying, I don't have all the answers. I believe in our team and I'm willing to help us move forward. But that helps build our trust. And sometimes you just got to put it out there. Like you said, you just got to put it out there and say, we could do this, and we can find the courage within each other to help face those challenges. But you talk about an example, and I think an opportunity could be maybe there was an opportunity where clinicals fell through and you're starting to panic and how am I going to do all this? And really maybe think about who can you put together who have strengths. And so, my strengths are in maximizing others and building relationships. And so sometimes it's working in that way, but then you might find somebody who has more of that detailed perspective and or that little bit of empathy that needs to come to the table. And so you work together, you bring the people to the table and you have a conversation about what can we do to help offset those experiences for students. And it may be that we have to look at it a little differently. Maybe we have to call on some of our network partners or our academic partners, and that we really have to look at the opportunity to say that this is for the students and how can we gain that experience for them. And like I said, it might also be a faculty member coming into the conversation saying, maybe we need to just look at this creatively and still give them an experience that is meeting the objectives. And then people don't forget about that. And so it builds the team, it builds trust, it builds transparency in the process for everyone too. And in that case, it did, because the students were very thankful in the end. And it was a difficult decision to stand in front of them and say, we got to fix something. But we did, and we talked about the process and everyone was a part of it. But I think it's leveraging your strengths and your traits that you bring and knowing who your team is so that you can call upon the team to be able to be a support to that as well.
Leading with courage isn't always easy, and doing the right thing isn't always easy, but integrity means doing it anyway. And that's a tough lesson to learn, especially when you're just starting off in academia. And I think true leadership is standing firm in your values, even when it's unpopular, even when it's uncomfortable. And it's choosing honesty and transparency and compassion over convenience. Because making a decision, it would be so easy to say, yep, that's fine, wash my hands of it. But at the end of the day, you want to lay your head down on the pillow and know that you have led with integrity. Peace comes from knowing that you led with that courage and you were true to yourself and your values. And I think because integrity is kind of the quiet strength behind authentic leadership.
I was just going to say that It's about being authentic. It's leading with authenticity, but it's also the courage when you face those challenges that you don't lose sight of the why. And I think sometimes we could get lost in that with the chaos, but within chaos, there does come a time where you come out of that, but you can't lose sight of the why. And in many cases, being a leader is that we need to take care of our faculty take care of our students. We do all that. We take care of our program and we take care of our university and we take care of the people that are going to be cared for in our community. So we have to remember that. That's leads to our mission and vision and following that as well. So that all kind of comes together. But yeah, leading with authenticity is really, I think, a lot what we're talking about.
It's not loud. It's not celebrated a lot of times, but It's always felt. It's like you said, it's felt by your team. It's felt by your peers. And I think most importantly, it's felt by you.
Oh yeah,
when you're doing it or not. And when I say it's felt too, definitely is. I was doing some reading about authenticity, and it's that strongest frequency that can be felt. And research shows that people actually form impressions within about 1/10 of a second. They can feel that, are they trustworthy or, warm? What's that facial expression or posture or tone or eye contact? So in the first few moments, I think a leader's presence, speak louder than their words. So I think we need to be really mindful of our presence. And when we walk into that room, how do we conduct ourselves before we even say anything? So, because that can be felt. For sure.
And I think another part of being authentic too is knowing yourself. And when you know yourself, you can then also, like we talked earlier, pair your strengths. But I think reflection is another key component. And so an opportunity for you, and I think that comes under that wellness umbrella too, is to self-reflect. Am I leading in a way that aligns with my values? Am I making decisions that reflect what I believe in regards to the support to students and nursing excellence and excellence in education? And sometimes people like to keep a journal, or maybe they like to just self-reflect and put some points or notes on a calendar or in a book. Or maybe they just like to just talk about it with a colleague. And I think those are real opportunities how we can also show up for ourselves and we could show up for others. And that's in not only building trust, but modeling the way for our students. Because if our students are going to lead in the future in healthcare or lead in education in the future, we want them to also lead with integrity in wherever they end up going. So I think those are great points.
So Kathy, to close, we'd love for you to share a spark, a pearl of wisdom or inspirational message for our audience. So what spark do you have for us today?
Well, my spark is this. The most powerful leadership tool you have is yourself. When you lean into your strengths, lead from your values, and show up authentically, you don't need to make just an impact. You want to give others permission to lead with courage too.
Thank you so much for sharing your insights.
You're
and
welcome.
inspiring us to lead with courage and purpose. I think today's episode beautifully highlighted the importance of not only innovation, evidence-based practice, but also authentic leadership in nursing ed. And that transformational leadership in this space means daring to challenge that status quo. Courageous leaders don't wait for perfect conditions. They don't exist. So I'm excited to ride this leadership wave with you, Kathy.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and energy with us today.
Oh, thanks, Kelly. It's been great to have a conversation on this with you. And, I just hope that everyone can think of an opportunity to maybe reimagine what's possible. We have such an opportunity ahead of us. And I just look forward to seeing what great things people are going to be able to do for support to our students and the healthcare for tomorrow. So thanks for the opportunity to share.
Thank you for joining the Lippincott Spark Illuminating Nursing Education podcast. Enjoy this episode, subscribe, share, and leave us a 5-star review. For more information, click on the link below to learn more about Lippincott Nursing products and services. Until next time, keep leading, learning, and making a difference in nursing education.